So Nikolai, nice to meet you. I don't know, I'm just going to record this anyway, so we got the ball rolling. So Nikolai is going to be bringing us all kinds of amazing things for the Analog Festival. He makes all kinds of emulsions and coat surfaces with silver. Oh, you tell me about it. I'm still trying to figure out what you actually do.
Yeah, the emulsion that I use can be coated on pretty much anything that'll let it stick to it. Claudia did painting on rocks with emulsion. What I do is I coat the liquid emulsion on glass to produce dry plates, very similar to wet plate. It uses very similar chemistry, but a very different process. And because of the process that's applied, unlike wet plate, you can then take these and you can store them. And I'm sure you've heard of a man named Ernest Shackleton, I think it is.
Yeah. He went to the South Pole.
Yeah. And all of his pictures were taken on glass plates. So they managed to carry those plates around with them, and they only developed them like after weeks, months.
Wow.
So it's a more portable version of the wet plate. The process that I go through is I go through the chemistry of making the emulsion, and then just like wet plate, you coat it on the plate, you spread it around, pour off the excess, and then you dry these. And then you can stack a few of them up together, and then they go out into the field. And they use these wet plate holders. I've got some that are currently in assembly, and I don't have the adequate sized plates, but the plate goes in here. You've got a film slide that protects the front side from light, and then you've got your plate that goes in on top of that, and then a back cover and some little taps, and then you can use that to go shooting. So yeah.
So you say that you can actually create a higher sensitivity of ISO than we can with wet plate, because I think we get a 1 ISO if you're lucky, and that's really like awful. In a shadow area, it takes 30 seconds to produce an image.
Yeah.
What is your dry plate ASA capability?
These plates, the ones that I've coated the most recently, I currently shoot at an ISO of 6.
Wow.
And that allows you to, in shade or overcast, take about a 1 second exposure at about f5.6. And
a game changer, actually. That's amazing, because that just allows you to keep your subject matter steady much easier than having to sit still for 30 seconds.
And if you're standing in the sunlight, you can get maybe 20th of a second at a given f-stop.
Wow.
And the reason for that massive difference in speed is literally just the size of the halide crystals in the image. When you've got wet plate collodion, all the little silver grains are formed so microscopically small that the surface area per grain only allows so much light to hit it. But the process that I do, you're growing those crystals over time. And the next batch of emulsion that I'm working on takes advantage of that to grow hopefully quite large crystals at a much higher ISO. And with this process, you get much bigger crystals, which is what gives you the higher speed. And you know that with really high ISO films like 800 ISO, 1600 ISO, the higher the ISO, the grainier the image gets, which is a direct result of the crystals themselves being physically bigger. So they can capture a lot more light.
Wow. So I can just imagine if you're shooting on a 8x10 sheet of glass or whatever surface you're shooting on, even with your 8 ASA, that's still incredible amount of quality. I mean, you can hardly even get that out of a digital image. If you had to scan an 8x10 neg, that is about the ultimate quality that you're going to get.
And because this emulsion is so low ISO, it's got an extremely fine grain structure. And I've had a look at these negatives, at least the ones that are really sharp, no motion blur. You can look at them with a magnifying loupe, and there's just more and more detail going down.
Wow.
So the sharpness is unparalleled for these images.
And how much does that cost now in comparative to, say, buying a 4x5 negative nowadays? It's quite a damn expensive process. If you buy 10 sheets of 4x5, what would you cost to do one 4x5 size neg or something to that size?
I have it all worked out, actually.
Wow.
The cost for one batch of emulsion, I believe it costs about 500 Rand. Oh, 486. That's just on chemicals alone.
Yeah.
The labor and all of that costs, I don't know.
Hours and hours of study.
Yeah.
But I mean, these prices must be going up constantly all the time. I mean, how much has silver gone up in the last year or two?
A lot.
Yeah.
So for one plate, one 4x5 plate, it goes for, I think, 14-ish Rand a picture.
Wow.
And I believe that is including the price of the glass.
Wow.
The Duralar, the plastic that I coat on, got some of it here. This stuff costs more money per square centimeter than glass does. But,
wow.
You can't exactly do this with glass.
No.
You can't store it in.
It's a labor of love what you're doing. It's a lot of work, to create one negative is not just it's not a mass production type process where you can do a whole lot at once. This is one, each individual neg is made by hand.
Yeah. Typically what I do is, because the glass is so clunky, I prefer to shoot on sheet film. I have these big panes of glass that I then cut strips of the acetate, and I then wet it onto the glass and I stick it down, and then I coat this entire thing with emulsion. So I have it sitting flat on a table, I pour the emulsion out onto it, I spread it out, and then, just as I was doing a dry plate, I move it around and then I tip off the excess. And then I get strips of film. I've got some examples here. I get long strips of film that I can then cut. And then I can roll that up and put that in a camera.
You take a 120 old spool and you re-spool it. Is that? Yeah.
I actually recently was given a very large amount of empty spools.
Brilliant. And that's free. At least that part is free.
And there were so many of them that I had to invent my own little tool for re-spooling these things.
Nice. And you 3D printed that, did you? Is that something that you designed as well?
Yeah, entirely designed and 3D printed to solve one problem.
Wow. So that all needs to be done in a pitch dark room, pretty much.
Actually, no.
With a red light. You can have a red light in there, can you?
Yes, I can. It's also safe. With the dyes that I add to it, it's almost panchromatic. It's just on the edge, like if there's any amount of orange light, it can see that.
So what does panchromatic mean for people who don't know panchromatic?
Okay, there are, that I know of, 4 classifications of film: colorblind, ortho, isochromatic, and panchromatic. Colorblind is the base sensitivity of the emulsion. It's sensitive from like the late UV to about turquoise blue, from 430 nanometers to about 560 nanometers. And then you've got orthochromatic, which is sensitive from that same amount up until about green yellowish. And then isochromatic, which is what I've managed to achieve with this film, is sensitive from those amounts right up until orange. So anything...
Hence your orange safe light ain't going to work.
Yeah. So if you do not have like a pure 660 nanometer light, if there's anything else, this film will fog. And
how many accidents have you had? Can you imagine? It's been quite a painful journey.
Most of the problems are with just light leaks.
Right.
But I managed to cancel those out. And one interesting way of checking what colors you have in your light is a piece of a CD. You hold it right up to your eye until you get just the right angle, and then it breaks the light into the spectrum. And then you can see whether or not your red lights are truly red or red with a little hint of orange in it.
Wow.
So
I think what we need to do is I think you need to do a talk on possibly Saturday evening about this process, because I think this is something so amazing that I don't know anybody else actually that does this. I mean, how many people do you know that actually do what you're doing? And coating?
On
3.
Earth.
On Earth, that's what I'm thinking. So that is quite a unique, unbelievable, exercise that you achieve. Well done.
And not to pat myself on the back, but the expert that I learned this process from, he practically gave me not the title, but he said, like, you have surpassed me in what we do here. Because I spend hours and hours researching, just asking so many questions to the people who are even still alive to do that. I spend hours reading through patent documents. I woof up every PDF textbook I can find. And I think I've learned enough to actually manage to make much faster and better emulsions.
Wow. So you're keeping something alive that would have died otherwise, because those people that know the knowledge you've got from are probably not going to, they're probably older people that are not going to be around much longer. So you are the custodian of this knowledge into the next generation. Well done.
Yeah, it literally just started off with my high school science teacher as a thank you for a fireworks demonstration I did at the school. Naughty. He gave me a little pot of silver nitrate, and I sat on it for a year, and then I realized, hang on, this has some photographic applications. So I started playing around with doing like albumin prints, salted paper prints and stuff like that. Doing in-plate, in-camera photographs. Actually, I think somewhere I've still got the camera that I built for it.
So you could actually do, all kinds of alternative print processes as well.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant.
This is the CPC lens that I found in the attic.
Is it a Mamiya?
Oh, no.
Pentax. Pentax is CPC, I think. Ah, okay.
Yeah, this might be... It just says MC. I don't know what the brand is. But this is literally just a piece of glass that I chipped into a viewing glass.
Okay.
No, you won't be able to see anything.
What are we meant to be seeing?
This is the first camera that I did those salted prints in. And the exposure times were on average, on a good sunny day, pointing at the sunny subject, 6 hours.
Wow.
Someone's calling me.
Okay. Well, it's almost like those sun pictures that Sean Wilson does with a cake tin and leaves photographic paper with a pinhole for 6 months. And then you get some sort of image that you can scan and manipulate and create something from. But that's, 6 month or 3 month exposure is ridiculous, crazy.
Well, I would actually love to see this film that I've got here done in a pinhole camera, because the ISO is much higher, so you can probably get away with just a couple seconds in a pinhole camera.
Well, I'm looking forward to experimenting when you're up here, because I've got all kinds of camera gear, from 4.5 to Wetplate to 8x10 down to loads of box brownies and pinholes and things. So we can have a few kind of experiments and see what your film is capable of. But I mean, you're saying you're actually starting your own film brand. You've got a little business that you want to get off the ground where you're producing handmade films.
Yeah, I'm slowly ramping up production. I'm looking into coating on a larger scale rather than just like a plate of glass at a time. We'll be doing like rolls. I've been looking through some documents for different coating methods. So you coat them like the entire sheet in one go, and then we cut up the film from that in whatever format might be required.
Mm-hmm. Look, I've got a few nice medium formats. I think we've got a Pentax 6.7, Mamiya RBs. We've got Pentagons. So it'd be nice to have some of your 120 films put through these cameras and then have because I mean they've got good glass and there'd be nice sharp images. So we'll be putting your quality of your product to the test.
Well, I'll certainly have a lot of that with me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So what would you sell a roll of your handmade film for? That's $1 million question. That it's not about how much it costs to make, but it's some hours and years of effort and research that you've done to get to this point has got a value.
Currently, what I charge for these rolls is 150 Rand for a roll, and then currently I sell it with let's see if I've got one around here somewhere. I have 35 ml canisters. Actually, no. I've got all my stuff scattered around. I've got these 120 rolls. This is one of my older models, and I've got 35mm single frames that come with it. And because of the particular properties of this film, its UV sensitivity, it changes through the season, just like how Wetplate does.
Yeah.
And so what I sell it with is these single frames so that you can calibrate what ISO you're shooting with, because at these low ISOs, your cell phone light meter might not register the same exposure times for the same ISO as my camera or my setup. So this allows you to calibrate to your equipment, and then you can then be confident that your exposures are okay on this. So together, these are sold for $150.
So tell me how the 35mm test film works. How do you put it into your camera? Does it have to be sort of put in where you normally have your film, like, but stuck in individually as a one-off little frame?
Yeah. They are single little frames like this. You can't really see the image on that. You open up your camera, and then you just, because of the way this thing bends, you have to like kind of fold it a little bit so that it sits nice. And then you put it on the focal plane of your camera. You carefully close it, and then you just take an exposure with it. And then you take it into the darkroom, you develop it, and then you what I like to do is do not steps, but go like half a stop, half a stop, half a stop. So I'd meter it ISO 2, 4, and 6. Do an exposure for that, and then I compare them and see which one gives the most balanced exposure, and then that is the set ISO that I choose.
So how many of those little 35mm film swatches do you have in the packet that comes with?
These ones currently I'm putting in 10 for just this, but I will be having these with larger quantities if you wanted to like just buy this alone. Okay,
but that's quite a mission in itself, to think you're going to go through the whole process, which could take you half an hour, to mix up your developer that could be, what would you use, normal ID11 or something? ID11,
regular processing chemistry.
So ID11 what's about a 15-minute developing, and then there's
no, this stuff develops in like good 5-6 minutes.
Okay, brilliant. Well, then that does not. I mean, the problem is if you're doing 3 or 4 tests, and then if it's half an hour per go, that's 2-3 hours of your time gone. So if it's 5 minutes, it's a lot easier. But still, it's for the real dedicated. Photography, you're not going to have everybody wanting to do this, but I love the way that you've actually made it. You've gone to all the trouble for the person that wants to actually make their own images from scratch. And I think that is where analog surpasses anything else, by the fact that you can make your own film, you can make your own paper, and the whole process is actually a hands-on craft that has been lost over time, and you bringing it back. It's I think what we're trying to highlight during the Analog Festival, and especially this year, which is a very much hands-on type festival, is showing all the different skills that people need to have to be able to be a true craftsman within the analog sphere, and what we are doing as analogers.
Yeah, one of the things that I pride myself on with these is every image, like, it's not only I took the image, I created the image. As in, I did the chemistry, I did the coating, and I took the picture, like, I had an idea of what I wanted, and then it exists as a physical object.
That's lovely. I mean, I must tell you a little story that I recite now quite often to people, is how do you understand analog photography versus digital? And I think somebody gave me a camera that was 100 years old with a film in which was about 80 years old. And that film had been exposed, but it hadn't been processed. Now, if you think how magical it is that 80-year-old light had been recorded on a surface and hadn't been developed. It's sitting there for 80 years. It was sitting there. That sunshine was sitting on that surface for 80 years, waiting for you to magically bring it alive. Isn't that an amazing kind of thought?
Yeah.
You can have 80-year-old sunshine hanging out there for 80 years.
And it's a little electrochemical process that takes place. It's not just, it records light. It's a photon hits the crystal, knocks an electron, then it gets captured in a spot in the crystal, and then it stays there waiting for you to come and put some developer on it.
That is magical, really. I mean, I think what I find is a lot of analogers in this day and age, they'll go buy a film, they put it through their camera, they drop the film off, and now they think they're analog photographers. Fine, you are, in theory, analog photographer, but you're missing the biggest, most fun part of being an analog photographer is actually processing your own film and printing it. I mean, making a contact sheet, or not even making a contact sheet, but physically going into a darkroom and evaluating your images and choosing the grade and burning in and holding back and deciding the size and cropping it. You know, that is a magical part of analog, which I'd like to try and get people to understand how important that is, to have that experience. Otherwise, you've lost half the experience, if not more, of what an analog photographer is.
Yeah, part of the magic that I'm trying to bring back with these little ortho frames that I've got here is because since the panchromatic film came out, you lost the ability to watch your film develop. And that's something that I want people to be able to experience again, because what hippie 20-something-year-old that just bought film for his grandma's camera, he's not going to know that process. So, and everybody likes really old things, so why not bring back the old way of processing?
Well, it brings the magic back into photography. You know, photography has become something which, you know, it's not even photography anymore. You've got, you know, Midjourney and all these AI programs that you can just type in a command and it'll produce an image. So, you know, what has happened to photography if it hasn't got the opportunity for people to still go and physically make it by hand? But I think photography as an analog will need to, at some stage, reach a collectability again, because the amount of money and time and effort it takes to make one image, you know, is very similar to doing a painting. You know,
it's an art form.
It's an art form, and I think there's going to be a time into the future where analog is going to be extremely collectible again.
Well, it already is. See the price of film cameras these days.
Yeah. But look at the prices of some of the photographs that have been sold. I mean, the Man Ray that was sold, the Violin Nude, and the Flatron building picture. I mean, these are going for millions. So there is already, I think, a understanding that analog itself, especially the old masters' work, is going to be as much, if not more, valuable than some, you know, Van Goghs and Picassos down the line.
Yeah,
I hope so. Well, Nikolai, I don't going to keep this too long. We might just get cut off with our half an hour max we've got on our Zoom, but I'm so looking forward to having you up at the Analog Festival this year, and I think it's going to be a game changer for anybody that's really a dedicated analog photographer to come and experience, you know, how to make your image from scratch and to experience your wonderful methods of creating film. And I'm excited to be able to shoot on my Wetplate camera a Dryplate Neg, which is not going to be taking 30 seconds to expose. That'll be a game changer.
With this new emulsion that I'm creating, I suspect that if you want to be able to take a picture indoors with a camera with no shutter, you might have to step the lens down.
Well, that's not a problem I'm going to be worried about. You know, I'm wanting to just be able to do a shot that somebody can sit still for a second and not have to painstakingly keep on some weird looking, you know, expression on their face to try and, you know, be steady for 30 seconds. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think these are all things we're going to be offering for anybody coming to the Analog Festival so that they can experience any of these things. So we look forward to having you here. It's 2 weeks away.
I'm looking forward to coming.
From today. So we shall we'll keep in touch, and we'll please do put some stuff up on the social media platforms so people can see what you do and your name of your brand, and start helping market yourself with the build up to the festival. So everybody, thanks so much, and we'll post this up on the the platforms. And Nikolai, give me all your details, and we'll share it out there for people to start investigating your product and wanting to see who wants to buy it. Look forward to you making a good sale out of this.
Well, most of my work is put on Instagram at White Sparks Photography, if you wish to see that.
Right.
I look very much forward to seeing what other people manage to do with my film, because I'm pretty much the only one shooting it at the moment.
Well, this is going to be the great test net for what your film is capable of. So look forward to 2 weeks from now. Can we believe it? It's going to happen. So fantastic. We'll see you, if not sooner, we'll see you 2 weeks from now.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Nikolai, and chat soon.
Cool. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.